Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tech Time Today. I'm your host, Jeff Welpley, and in this episode, we're going to talk about a really dumb mistake that I made that has adversely affected pretty much all of the Tech Time videos that I have done so far. I've been in the middle of trying to do one Tech Time, at least on average, one Tech Time video a day, 10-minute video each for at least 30 days, and then I was going to reassess my cadence and everything like that. But as I'm doing this, I keep on listening to the videos that I'm producing, and the sound has just sounded off. And then I finally realized what it was with some help, and so I'm going to get into all of that. And it's kind of I think it's a somewhat funny story, but maybe it'll help you if you do any recordings of your own. Make sure that you like the video. If you think this story is somewhat interesting or funny, and would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, make sure you subscribe. I do try to put out a short tech related video at least every day for right now. This isn't going to be actually, I will be a little bit tech related because I'm going to show you a couple of things of what was going on. But most of the time I'm talking a lot about web development or AI and things like that. So all right, let's get started. So I've done a dozen of these videos, and actually even before that, actually going back even further, many months ago, probably in the beginning of the summer, even I had a thought to ramp up what I did online. I've always been part of different podcasts. I was the host of Angular Air for a while, still go on a lot of other podcasts, and I was planning on doing Tech Time Today, as well as I still have a few other things planned. And so I got some help from someone who I hired through Upwork, who is an expert in doing YouTube channels, audio, video, all that type of stuff. And they helped me buy some equipment, microphone, lighting, etc. And all that was great. But all along, the audio just didn't sound quite right. And at first I thought it was, I don't know, just something silly that I was doing, and I was making small adjustments, but I just kept on kind of going on. But when I really started doing these 30 days of videos every day, I was definitely more scrutinizing the end product, and just I knew that there was something off with the audio. It just did not sound right. It sounded like I was in like a hollow cave or something. And the guy that I had hired to help me also, he kept on saying like, "Oh, you sure that the new microphone that I got, that I suggested you get, is hooked up correctly and everything?" I was like, "Yes, yes, 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 yes." And I even then for the last couple tech time, the last two, I started to try to do a lot of post processing of the audio, but what we found out the issue was you know the this contractor that I was working with finally said, "Oh, is the microphone facing the right way?" The So I'm going to actually bring this up so you could see a little bit here. So you see how there's this the brand Rode and T1, and so he was like, "Oh, the brand name has to be facing away from you, and there should be like a little gold dot that's facing you." And I was like, "What? Really?" Like I really assumed that I just assumed the brand name was facing me. And I didn't even think that it would matter because the microphone looks sort of the same other than the brand name, that it wouldn't matter which way it's facing. But he's like, "Oh yeah, no, no, that matters a lot." And sure enough, as soon as I turned the microphone around, things sounded a lot better or whatever. So that was sort of hilarious, especially because besides these tech time videos that I've been doing, I mean, I've been on tons of video calls. I've been on other podcasts all the time with the dumb microphone facing the wrong way and kind of like a pretty awful sound quality coming out of it. But there was also in my last two videos, it was sort of this issue was sort of exacerbated because as I was searching around to try to figure out the issue, I really dove into the various aspects of audio. And I actually want to show you two things that I think are sort of funny. So one thing is that I realized that the microphone has its own app, which is actually really useful. And in the app, there's one thing that actually, in addition to turning the microphone around, that I did need to do which is to turn up the gain. I'm not a super expert on all of the audio stuff yet, but the gain is how much of the audio is getting the level that's getting pumped into the recording. And so if you turn up the gain, then the sound, the actual wavelength of the sound increases. So I'm going to change this really quick just for you on the fly so you could see. So this is at 25 dB. And as I turn it up, one thing you'll notice is that you start picking up, and when it's really high, you start picking up like small, you don't want it too high because it picks up these little sounds all around, like little background sounds and that type of thing, which isn't good. So I'm going to crank it up to its max. So this is 25. And then 35, okay, a little bit louder. 45, and then I'm going to go up to the max. And now this is 60. So you should be hearing all sorts of like background humming and that type of thing, it's at 60 because it's like really, really sensitive right now. So I'm going to back it off back down to 25. Okay, so this is back down to like a normal level. That took some time. So that was a good thing, but what was a bad thing is like, what are all these other settings? So like, I'm not going to do this now necessarily, but if you go into the advanced settings and like, okay, I'll show you really quick. It has all these other crazy settings for which I don't even know what all of these are for different parts of the sound and how sound is processed. And I'm going to turn that off because actually that was part of the issue is that I had turned this on and it started doing all sorts of crazy things to the sound quality. And that's why when I was re-listening to it, I was like, why is it sounded like, I mean, all sorts of things, like the levels were going all up and down. It sounded like some popping. There was like some like humming. It was all sorts of crazy. So then that led to me, because before I realized that this was the issue, okay, I did something else to fix the problem that made it even worse. So I'm going to switch over to that right now. All right. So this is in Davinci Resolve, which is what I use to put the videos together. And in this, one of the things you could do all sorts of post processing for sound. And so, what I was trying to do, I tried a whole bunch of things, but like, for example, I would try to normalize the audio levels. I thought that was part of the problem. And so like which normalizing means, when it's the peaks and valleys of the wavelength of your sound is too great. It just sounds like the sound is like jumping all over the place, like really, high at some points and then kind of like really soft and you can hardly hear it. So normalize kind of tries to like bring that all together. But I think this and the combination of like, there was some other, I started reading some things of like, there's these other sound effects that you could do, which again, I'm just starting to like learn about all this stuff, but I guess different things that you could do to the sound, like some of it's like noise reduction is pretty straightforward. Some of these other things I have no idea. But I started just like throwing stuff on there, and it just like made things worse. So, I mean, that was basically it. Hopefully now it sounds good, and I'm gonna kind of keep recording. I was tempted to just like delete all my old recordings and re-record them, but I honestly, I just they're at least somewhat, you could listen through them, and I sort of like the content, so I'm not gonna do that. But I fixed the issue, and I'm looking forward to recording new things. I did delete my one most recent recording that was on the Angular developer survey results. I'm going to do that later today to re-record that with the sound fixed, because I definitely want to make sure that that one comes out well. And then starting tomorrow, kind of onward and upward. So thank you for listening to Tech Time today. Look forward to seeing you again in the next one. All right. See ya.